Audio test. Audio test. Oh, I just have my Twitch muted. That might be it. Alright, audio test number 3, and hopefully last audio test. Oh, I just have my Twitch muted. There we go. Alright. Good evening, everyone. My name's Phil Gallagher of Thraben University, and tonight I'm going to be streaming some Red, White, Death, and Taxes with Dire Fleet Daredevil, of all things. So this little fellow has been getting a lot of press recently. Jury's still out on whether or not it's actually a good card and worth the slot, but it's super interesting and it does a lot of strange and unusual things. You know, getting to ponder and brainstorm when you're not the blue deck is really sort of a privilege. And I've done all sorts of other weird and wacky things with it, so I want to keep testing it. Just for anyone who just has no idea what this card is, it's sort of like a reverse Snapcaster Mage. It is a 2/1 first strike for 1 and a red. When at ETB, you exile a target or you exile an instant or sorcery from your opponent's graveyard. You can then cast that card this turn and spend mana as though it were mana of any type or color to cast that spell. If it would be put into a graveyard, you exile it instead. So it can be like pseudo-graveyard hate against cards like Punishing Fire and Life from the Loam, which is really neat, and it opens up a lot of unusual opportunities against decks like lands in Game 1. Against a deck like Delver that has a bunch of lightning bolts and such, you know, it is a removal spell on a creature. And if we kind of had a 3-mana Necrotal effect, we'd probably go and play that in the first place. I've done some cool things with it so far. About the most satisfying thing was bolting my opponent for lethal when they had a Jason the Mind Sculptor on board and sort of thought that they had things locked down, and very clearly did not. In order to make room for the Dire Fleet Daredevils, I cut the Vryn Wingmares from the main, and I made a couple of small adjustments with my mana base to make it easier to get red a bit earlier on. I have had three 3/2 finishes with this deck. So the Dire Fleet Daredevil deck is just sitting, you know, right at the 60% threshold. I'd like the deck to perform a little bit better for me to keep playing the Dire Fleet Daredevils, but I'm not going to stop testing it this early after just a couple of leagues. I do want to cut the Surgical Extraction, though. Last league I played against Reanimator, and I noticed that, like, I bring in basically my entire sideboard. Like, if you look at what would come in against Reanimator, it's basically this entire pile on the left. So the Surgical Extraction can go. Yeah, I actually want to talk about Egget's deck. That was one of the things I was going to do at the beginning of the stream here. So for anyone not following along with the chat, another user, Egget, said that he got to gamble for Magus of the Moon versus lands in the Legacy Challenge over the weekend, which he ended up winning. So if you take a look at his list here, sort of the main deck is approximately the same. I think he has a Vryn Wingmare, where I have something else. What do I have instead of that Vryn Wingmare? Palace Jailer? Yeah, Palace Jailer. And then the sideboard, he has a couple of things I don't like. He has some Mindbreak traps, fearing Storm type decks a little bit more than I am, but a lot of the core is the same. So actually, there was one other deck list I wanted to talk about. I saw something really weird, and I just wanted to point it out to just show you things that people are trying out. Now, this doesn't mean that I think it's good. On the contrary, I think this is very bad, but I wanted to talk about it. So, here is a user Alvas's deck list. It is a mono-white deck list, but take a look at the sideboard, because that's what I really care about here. 4 Leyline of the Void, 4 Mindbreak Trap. That's unusual. I'm kind of curious what this user was expecting to face. because there's no additional removal here. There's nothing like Council's Judgment to take care of equipment. There are very few generalist cards. Like, 4 Mind Break Trap, 2 Aethersworn Canonist, 4 Leyline of the Void, 2 Prelate, 1 Spirit, 2 Surgical Extractions. Like, if you were going to play against Ant all day, and you wanted to board in 15 cards, that would do it. But I have no idea how a list like this is supposed to, like, work more generally in the metagame, and I think there's a lot of problems with a list like this. Like, a big difference between, like, Rest in Peace and Leyline of the Void is that you can cast Rest in Peace. You know, this list can't draw Leyline of the Void, so if you don't get it in the opener, it's dead. And whereas Rest in Peace is a 2-sided card, that is, it hits both graveyards, Leyline of the Void is a 1-sided card. So it only stops your opponent's graveyard, not your own. So against things like Tarmogoyf, Leyline of the Void is notably worse. And same thing with something like Deathrite Shaman. You know, if your opponent is like a Deathrite Shaman deck, they can still eat lands and instants and sorceries and creatures out of your graveyard, and you only somewhat impact them. So this was a list I saw that I thought was extremely questionable. Like, this sideboard is basically just to beat combo decks with almost no consideration to anything else. Like, the main deck is a little odd too, in that it has a 2-2 split of Palace Jailer and Sanctum Prelate, both of which aren't unprecedented as 2-ofs in the deck, but it's certainly a little bit odd. I just wanted to highlight that. Alright, anyway, so I'm going to swap out this Surgical Extraction on my sideboard for something. Chat, if you have any opinions, feel free to throw them out there now. In the first league that I played with this deck, I threw out Orzhov Pontiff, but it was too hard to cast. In I think I tried Pontiff for the second one as well, and then in the third one, I ran the Surgical Extraction. But like I was saying a minute ago, like, I have just so many cards against Reanimator that I probably don't need that. So I'm thinking that Cataclysm and Council's Judgment are probably among the best cards. So someone in the chat says Council's Judgment. I haven't liked Council's Judgment as much in the red-white deck. Like, since I'm running the Relic Warder, I already have sort of a flexible card that can deal with equipment, and I have a third Recruiter as well. Personal question, Phil. I've always wondered, do you give your glasses a little push up when you get serious about something? Well, how much anime do you watch, my friend? Because, like, whenever those characters get serious, they always just, like, do one of these, and then, you know, maybe there's a glint in their glasses or something like that. Honestly, I do sometimes do that. Is the deck better or worse against True Name, presumably, than White-White? The White-White version is definitely better against True Name, like, unquestionably so, because it runs 2 Council Judgments in the sideboard. Do I want a Blessed Alliance, folks? How do we feel about Blessed Alliance? It's a card that's good against Burn. It's a card that's also good against True Name. That could potentially be reasonable. Council's Judgment isn't out of the question either. I just haven't liked it a ton. Like, in the regular red-white version that I've been playing, like, when I'm running Wingmare and Thalia, I don't really want to run Council's Judgment. Maybe it's fine in this list. How has Dire Fleet been performing for you? Even when you just get to Brainstorm or Ponder, that's pretty good. Like, Brainstorming and Pondering is a little bit better than I expected it would be. Like, I know obviously those cards are insane, but I didn't think that I'd regularly be able to shuffle afterwards. But I'm finding that between the Stoneforges and my own fetch lands, I'm shuffling more often than I thought I would. And Recruiter of the Guard as well. 3-path and Blessed Alliance is a lot of extra removal. Yeah, I agree. Maybe we don't go that route. I could go the Bahra route and like run the Fiendslayer Paladin, but I'm kind of lukewarm on that. I just kind of concede a couple of points to the burn deck and just let that happen most of the time. But it's also pretty good against check pile. I can also Gideon in that last slot. That's not unreasonable. Is it better to get a cantrip with Direfleet or a removal spell like Push or Swords? Given the option, I like using a removal spell with Direfleet Daredevil. Just like getting an opponent's creature off the board often buys you more time for like the awesome late game of this deck to get off the ground. But against like a deck like Check Pile, just getting a cantrip is fine if you don't have anything better. I'd just run another Mirror Crusader than the first Fiendslayer. I mean, you guys do. I know I just love Mirror Crusader. I actually don't hate that, because like in the times where the Direfleet Daredevil isn't good, just having another Mirror Crusader to board in as a generic dude might be fine. I kind of like that. Alright, anyone want to like try to convince me to run something other than Mirror Crusader? Oh, okay. Why not add Sword of War and Peace? Sword of War and Peace is great. I love Sword of War and Peace. It's better in a 4 Crusader build, but it's still sweet. Oh, no, Fiendslayer Paladin. So for anyone who doesn't know that card. Fiendslayer Paladin. 1, white, first strike lifelink, 2/2, and it can't be the target of black or red spells your opponent control. Phil just got excited. Do I just run War and Peace? Like, do I just do it? I love that card. It's so good. It's so stupid good. Like, it's good against Miracles, it's good against Check Pile, it's good against the Mirror, it's good against Burn. Alright. Alright. We're doing it. Yeah, I think that rounds things out nicely. Like, this last slot could be a lot of things, and it would be just fine. But I like that. Alright, so I played one match of this league already. I think I played the D&T Mirror. Let me get down to my data here. Yeah, I played the D&T Mirror, and I just got obliterated by opposing equipment 2 games in a row. Any chance we get a Pithing Needle? Pithing Needle would be a fine card to add in. Actually, I guess since I'm 1 league into this match, I'm locked into whatever I had when I submitted this. Oh man, I guess that means we're running the Surgical for another day. That's disappointing after all of that talk. That's super sad. I forgot about that. That's on me. A Palace Jailer? I have 1 Palace Jailer in the main deck, and I don't think I ever want to play a list with 2. I may have gotten overly excited when the card first came out and like tried too many of the card to see how it went in multiples. But it can be clunky. Like, in the right spot, Palace Jailer just takes over the game. Pull a Lewis CPR and 0-1 drop. I'm not that brave. Like, my win percentage is about where it needs to be to, like, do what he's doing. But I'm so stingy or frugal, however you want to put it, that I don't think I can leave that much value on the table. Like, I am one to fight through the crap bracket to like get back out in tournaments, and like I've dug myself out of so many things. Oh, interesting. So that MTGO user who got the weird D&T deck list I was talking about a minute ago with like 4 Mindbreak Traps and 4 Leylines on the sideboard currently has 3 trophies. I don't know if like that's entirely with D&T or if they're switching around, but sort of interesting note. Will I ever get paired with a match? Please, I just want to play some Magic. So, yeah, Pithing Needle doesn't excite me. Pithing Needle is a card right now that I don't think is particularly good against most of the top tier. Like, it used to be that Like, Pithing Needle was just so stupid good against Miracles while having splash application elsewhere that was fine, but I don't really think that's good enough anymore. Alright, playing against Rohan Nosa. Red Nose? I have no data on that player. I'm on the draw. My opponent is mulliganed. This is a solid hand against a fair deck. Not a great hand against an unfair deck. But I'll keep it. Yeah, I think, due to Recruiter of the Guard, Banisher Priest and Palace Jailer have largely invalidated Fiend Hunter. I, too, will lead on my Windswept Heath, sir. Looks like the mirror. I've inspired. Oh, I lied. Not the mirror. That's a taiga. I've inspired you to build D&T? Great, that's awesome. D&T is amazing. I love it so much. Little does our opponent know we have all the equipment in the world, and I don't actually care if they blow up one. Yeah, I am probably playing against Punishing Maverick, which is not a matchup that I like. Would really love to have that, that sort of War and Peace we were talking about here. So my opponent passed with a bunch of mana up. So it could just be that they're like holding up a Punishing Fire and Solid Pridemate activation. Or it could be something silly like a Scurb Ranger, or it could be a Swords to Plowshares. There's a lot this could be. I wish I had one more land so that, like, with impunity, I could just, like, throw away an equipment this turn, followed by, like, play an equip next turn. Sort of unfortunate that I drew a Stoneforge after having both of these pieces of equipment, but, like, it might be fine for, like, deploying Batterskull. I'm gonna just try to, like, get my opponent to use a removal spell on this Revoker. Alright. Got a flash creature. Do I revoke Pridemage and make him blow up Revoker? Yeah, that's exactly what I did. If my opponent has like another removal spell or another Pridemage to deal with like Revoker plus equipment. Alright. So they can now untap dudes with Scurb Ranger. Alright, a lot of lines available. I can just jam Palace Jailer and make them deal with that. I can make them have a Swords to Plowshares this turn by trying to get in there with Jitte. I can, like, play another Stoneforge and keep a Stoneforge activation up. I can play Jitte and keep a Stoneforge activation up. I have a lot of lines available. You think our opponent doesn't have removal? That's a fair assumption. Like, if our opponent had removal, that's not exactly Swords to Plowshares. They might have just, like, not cast their Green Sun Zenith. I kind of like cast Jitte, put Jitte on Stoneforge, attack in, and make them have Swords to Plowshares this turn, otherwise I get way ahead on board. I think I will do that. Like, I can be more patient and put in a Batterskull, though, and, like, cast Jitte, put in Batterskull. And that more conservative line might just be better, in all honesty. It's just not better to them not having removal spell and them having, like, land plus Jitte naturally. Why don't I get more viewers? I get plenty of viewers. Like, I've had over 100 on a couple of occasions. I really don't want my opponent to have Jitte. I want to make him show me a removal spell right here. Show me Swords to Plowshares. Hey, there are dozens of us! Dozens. Alright, he showed me Swords to Plowshares. That's fine. So, like, I take a little bit of a tempo hit from this, but, like, since I have another Stoneforge and, like, a lot going on in my hand, I don't actually mind this all that much. So, like, the issue was, like, with just slamming Jailer in that position, if they do have the Swords to Plowshares that I was kind of playing around, then I Swords to Plowshares the Scrib Ranger, and I have to, like, chump block this Qasali Pride Mage, because I can't actually beat a 3-3 in combat right now, unless I trade multiple bodies, and I can get, like, savagely blown out by another piece of removal beyond the first Swords to Plowshares. Alright, so my opponent might get to Rex Sage the Jitte here. Nope, just a knight. Quote, just a knight. You know, just. Alright, so what do I want to do? This knight just tutoring up a bunch of wastelands is gonna be kind of annoying. If I equip the Revoker and attack in, they block with Knight. I can trade the Revoker for Knight with my 2 Jitte counters. And then I can play a Stoneforge to violin the Batterskull, and I would allow them to blow up one of my 3 pieces of equipment with the Pride Mage, but then they lose their clock. I think since my mana's so weak, I'm just going to lose to Knight as a Wasteland machine, especially since my opponent can, like, Wasteland me twice with Scrib Ranger activations. So I'm going to get aggressive with the Revoker and Jitte counters here. And if my opponent, like, takes a block with one of these other creatures, that's okay with me as well. And again, so as not to get wastelanded multiple times next turn, I will go ahead and just kill the Scrib Ranger now. So a turn down the line, we have Stoneforge Mystic, put in Batterskull, equip Batterskull with Jitte, and that beats the Knight in the short term. And then long term, we have Palace Jailer. Bloodbraid Elf. Well, ain't that spicy? Yeah, I think we slightly were off the mark with exactly what deck my opponent is. Like, it might just be a, like, 3 to 4 color mid-range deck that is, like, built like Maverick, but is just sort of a bigger value deck to, like, fight against things like Check Pile. Alright, so what happens if I just Palace Jailer the Knight instead? So I Palace Jailer the Knight, they fetch up a land. They have Bloodbraid Elf plus a Dryad Arbor. Unless they sack the Dryad Arbor. I have a Jitte counter for Dryad Arbor. And then I'm really only afraid if they have like another Bloodbraid Elf. I'll have 2 bodies on board, plus 1 Jitte counter. Maybe just Thalia plus Batterskull is fine. Like, diversity of bodies is probably okay. So, like, this way, a turn down the line, I can very, very realistically play Palace Jailer. So my opponent really should have sacked the Dryad Arbor there, because now I get to kill the Dryad Arbor. Whereas before, I couldn't because, like, the Knight threatening to sacrifice it and give my opponent value was annoying. Oh. My opponent misclicks and wastelands their own wasteland. That's rough. My opponent owns up to it. They say it's my fault, I guess, and made one of the little icons that has funny eyes on it. Alright, they have their own Thalia, and now they are hellbent. No attack from my opponent. Yeah, we're playing a weird game right now where, like, we both have Wasteland and Caracas and Thalias. So, like, now my opponent is probably going to Wasteland my Caracas so that they win that war. Yeah. Serious question for chat. Do you think my opponent knows about, like, blocking with Thalia and then bouncing it to invalidate damage from Batterskull? Honestly, don't know. But I'm going to find out. Alright, looks like they know the trick. This is going to be decent. Yeah, my opponent scoops it up to the Palace Jailer. So, like, I don't think I was in any position where, like, I 100% needed to, like, slam the Jailer early there and expose myself to things going wrong. I'm going to call it Punishing Maverick for my notes, but, like, my opponent has Bloodbraid Elf, so that's not exactly right. So, 3 pieces of equipment and Jailer locked it up. Like, I know only 2 pieces of equipment hit that play that game, and, like, they hardly did things, but they were taking over the game. So I'm gonna board a pile of things that I would consider, and then figure out what I'm gonna do with my life here. I'll get back here, little buddy. So what don't I want? I 100% don't want Thalias in this matchup. Those are coming out. I want to play sort of a mid-range game against my opponent. I'm not 100% sure that my opponent has a Stoneforge package. Makes sense that they would, but I don't know for sure. I don't know that getting to red-red for Pia and Kieran is realistic. think it's just random zoo. Nah, a zoo. Maybe. I think it's probably punishing Maverick that went big. Like, how heavy on the removal do I go? Like, they have knights. I really care about knights. And they have a bunch of other annoying critters. Like, if I'm going this heavy on removal, do I still want the rest in peace? Guy is a rebel against check pile. Yeah. Like, if my opponent's maybe a punishing fire deck, maybe I don't Magus. So, like, maybe I keep the Daredevils because they might let me do, like, a whole bunch of weird things. And don't board in the rest in peace. Unclear. Let's try this. Yeah, I think I have the choice of either playing Rip or Daredevil. I don't think I can do both. Snap keeping this hand. It has 2 moms. Mom's amazing. And my opponent is mulliganed. Wow, I just kind of sat there and thought about my lines a lot in that match. Lower on clock than I thought I'd be. Well, if my opponent punishing fires this mom, I get to play mom, and then invalidate the punishing fire lock from blocking me out of the game. Yep. Or hey, I'm fine with being mom flooded. Alright, so for next game, we're swapping Direfleet Daredevil and Rest in Peace. That is 100% happening. I can just drop this Jitte now and, like, use my mana efficiently, or I can just get another mom in play. I'm gonna opt to just get another mom in play. Let's see, over-under on number of loams my opponent is playing. I think 1 loam is probably reasonable. I think anything more than that is probably ambitious. I don't know what that message was, but if that person needed to be banned, thank you. I'll look at that myself in a little while. Ooh, 3rd Natural Wasteland. Rough. Good thing I have all these moms. I'm not gonna get overly aggressive and attack in this turn. Like, on my next turn, I'm just gonna Flicker Wisp their Ooze, and then I'll get in there with a Mom. Note that I'm fine with opening my Moms up to removal here, because I'm gonna slam this Crusader. And this also lets me kill one of their lands. Ah, it was a malware link. Yeah, thank you for banning that person. And my opponent just scoops it up there. So we're on the draw there, and we win. We didn't really do anything. Like, our opponent played a Scavenging Ooze and mulliganed, and that's all that happened that game, other than a bunch of wastelands. Like, our Moms didn't even do that much. Like, I guess our wasteland on our opponent's Grove got rid of why they kept the hand. I guess that's what I'll attribute the win to. Yeah, so for anyone who is not used to playing like Crusader and Jitte together, Crusader plus Jitte is a 2-turn clock. It's pretty dumb. Like, getting 4 counters on Crusader means that on the next turn it can pump itself for 8, putting it up to a 10-10. And then with Double Strike it just kills with 2 Jitte counters to spare that you get after first strike combat. At least opponent wastelanded you correctly last game. Wastelanding every land I got for 3 turns was pretty good. Oh, I agree. People have no idea what's going on with Double Strike and Jitte. Dark Onyx. I thought I had a game. Do I not have a game? There it goes. Who would like to play first? Opponent last seen on Death and Taxes, although they've played D&T Miracles and Loam in the past few months. His hand's awkward, chat. His hand's really awkward. Ayati says Snapkeep. In Vile we trust. I don't really want to throw this back. Like, it's so awkward if my opponent stops the Vile. But, like, we have some, like, redundancy built in, and depending on what my opponent is playing, I might keep Vile in 1 for 2 turns in order to, like, put in both Moms. I'm on the play, I'll keep it. Like, I know this gets punished by a lot of stuff, but one of the things I've been saying on stream is I want to try to keep more one-landers. Because, like, 6 months ago, maybe even, like, 3 months ago, I would have just, like, mulliganed this with no thought. Because, like, if the Vile goes wrong, I die. But then a lot of people on stream were just saying, hey, you should keep those. Hey, you should keep those. So I want to do a little bit more experimentation. The other way you get punished with this deck is you don't have Ether Vial. Alright, well, we were dead either way this game, so, like, it was a fine keep. We tried, chat. Someone please type the elves command for me. So here I'm hoping that my opponent attacks with this Wirewood symbiote and lets me kill them. Because I will 100% trade a mom for that. Press F to pay respects. This guy gets it. Alright. Didn't happen. Alright, so this is where we play the, like, super weak, hope I can mana denial the deck that makes a bunch of mana strategy. Elves is the worst D&T matchup, right? Like 90-10? Maybe more like 20-80, but yeah, it's very bad. Like, the only way we get worse is, like, something like Belcher, where you just go off on turn 1, like, very consistent. Maybe not very consistently, but somewhat consistently. Elves just, like, dodges all of our disruption in basically every way. Ugh. I wouldn't be... Nope, never mind. I was gonna say, I wouldn't be surprised my opponent just, like, blocks with an Elvish Visionary, bounces with Wirewood. Like, that's 100% what I expected. But it didn't happen. I can flicker his Visionary. Just help him kill me faster. I kind of expect that my opponent has Gaia's Cradle in hand, since they didn't Visionary and bounce. Alright, Heritage Druid. Makes sense. Both sides fought hard. Good job for the troops. The troops on both sides. We are about a turn or two beyond the turn I expected to die. Oh! Look at that, chat! Look at that! I haven't seen that in a while. It's a gem of long-forgotten times. Probably pretty sweet against check pile. I'm not actually all that scared of that until my opponent goes and gets something like a Gaia's Cradle, and then I'm terrified of it. Am I jailering? Is that what's happening? Do I just jailer the Ren's Run Packmaster during their turn so that I can, like, hide behind it and then try to outdraw them? I don't know if that's practical. But, like, how do we win? We don't. Like, I'm past the point where I can just mana denial them out of this game. And that Ren's Run Packmaster is going to beat me in the fair game. I can Palace Jailer the Ren's Run Packmaster, attack in with both Thalia and Flickerwist, and not even try to hold the crown and just like try to aggro him out of the game, try to get in there for 5. The awkward thing is that I give them a card, but he's just gonna bounce it. It's an elf, right? Yeah, it is an elf. So if he bounces it, he gets his Visionary back, and then my Jailer trigger does nothing. I can Jailer the Wirewood instead, but that presents its own series of problems. Yuck. I'm gonna tick it up. He probably won't Wirewood. I agree with that. I think I'm just gonna like hold this Jailer up for a turn. I don't think I need the card. I think if I win this game, I win this game by like randomly somehow getting there with Flicker Wisp. I'd really, really, really like my opponent to Wirewood bounce an Elvish Visionary right now, so that I can vial in my Palace Jailer and get the Ren's Run Packmaster. That would be the ideal sequence for me. Alright, and they didn't use it. Well, I'll bite. It's kind of awkward that this gives them an Elvish Visionary back and another draw, but maybe I bit too early on this. It's hard to tell. Just like play Gaia's Cradle and kill me. Put me out of my misery. Still got all these bounces. This is fun. But Phil, you are the monarch. You are divine ruler. Be happy. The thing about being the monarch, the thing about being the king or the queen or the regent or whatever, everyone wants to kill you. Everyone wants your throne. It's all about the crown. For the value. I respect it. Alright, so my opponent played a couple of things here. Just a couple. Alright, that Ether Vial is a little bit late. Alright, so my opponent has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 power on board. The morph play was actually really important because now I can't just, like, play pro-green on Thalia, bash in with Thalia and Flicker Wisp as a line that's reasonable. So now I can only attack with the Flicker Wisp. And I still will. We will bluff strength even though we have none. I do need to do some attacking. I wish I could do more attacking than what I'm doing. P and K would be okay. It would produce a lot of bodies. So Born Confused, I think if I just, like, give Thalia pro-green attack in with Thalia, like, to make them block with the morph so that they don't take additional damage, then, like, my mom is tapped as well. And if, like, assuming my opponent doesn't just natural order and kill me, then, like, just a stream of idiots coming in would kill me as well over the course of 2 turns before I could kill them with Thalia and Flicker Wisp beats. Yeah, I have no idea how my opponent isn't just killing me. Like, they have so many different lines that leave me dead here. What is this? I don't know what this card is. When Tribal Force Mage is turned face up, creatures of the type of your choice get +2/+2 and gain trample until end of turn. Didn't expect that. That's new. Is it actually new, or is it, like, really old? It's really old. Is that card good? This was the Crater Hoof before Crater Hoof existed? Yeah, I can see that, but, like, is this good? Oh, that's kind of cute. So you could just do it a couple of times, and then, like, unmorph it again. Sure. Why is, like, is this better than anything else they can be doing with those card slots, though? Like, is this better than Nissa? Maybe he'll name human. Sure. Like, my opponent doesn't actually have that many elves. Like, they have 3 elves. Well, no, they have 4 elves. Like, they can untap that. Like, maybe this is enough. Yeah. So, do they clearly not have Natural Order and Hoof? Like, in their deck, or, like, they very clearly don't have them in hand. But do they have them in their deck? Or is this just, like, random, like, Chaos Elves? I don't think I actually have any outs to win this game. So I think I'm just going to concede. Like, I can survive this turn, but all those guys have trample, and then they just do this again next turn, and there's no way that I can present 10 damage. Like, I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 on board. Yeah, I can trade with one of these bodies. Yep. Alright. I'm dead. What was the name of that card? Tribal Force Mage. Alright. So we're playing the Darkfleet Daredevil list. We're playing against elves. We are on the play. And we lost to Dark Wonix. Game 1, OP wins with Tribal Force Mage. No, I couldn't do that because I was losing the Monarch status to their trample that turn. Alright, so Priest, Canonist, in for sure. Recruiter, Crusader, Prelate, in for sure. Let's figure out what's bad. Thalia, 100% definitely bad. Palace Jailer, definitely bad. They can go much, much wider than us. Yeah, Ayati, you figured that out as well. I guess Direfleet Daredevil is not ideal in this matchup. I don't think me glimpsing is going to realistically happen. And I still have a handful of awkward cards. Like, I could consider boarding in another P and K just because, like, it is technically removal and it can stop a bunch of the random bleeding that can occur. And, like, I can consider boarding in Path to Exile for Wirewood Symbiote, but I don't like it on any target other than Wirewood Symbiote in this matchup. So that's not great. Like, maybe that's still better than P and K because P and K is, like, so terribly slow. I don't know that I want to board out anything else, though. Like Ayati says he boards in 2 paths, but, like, what else would you do? Would you, like, trim a land? That's about the only thing I want to cut from all of this. I'll keep this. This is a little bit of a weak hand, but, like, it has Swords to Plowshares for their first dude. It has an Aether Vial. It has a Wasteland for if they play a non-basic land. It's not great. So you say Moonman seems bad? Magus is actually really good against elves. Like, if you can stick it in the early game, they don't actually have that many green mana sources. So then they have to make all of their mana with elves, and if they're on one of the draws that is like a Wirewood Symbiote and Elvish Visionary draw that doesn't actually make a lot of mana, like, Magus of the Moon can take them off of mana. And, like, just shutting off Cradle and turning Cradle into something that taps for 1 red is fine. Like, that stops a lot of the scary lines. Yeah, so, like, despite being a quote mono green deck, elves only play something like 2 forests. I say, quote, mono green, because, like, they're usually mono green main deck, but almost always have, like, Abrupt Decays and Thoughtseize and Cabal Therapies in the sideboard, and maybe white as well. Oh, are you saying you bring in... I don't know. Like, that's... Like, sure, my opponent has played Forest this game, but that's, like, not going to be the case in a lot of games. And, like, if I have another removal spell, I'll point it at this Wirewood Symbiote. And if they played, like, Forest Bayou, and I give them another Forest back, that's not the best spot for me. Okay. Well, there's good news, chat. If we don't die this turn, we probably win this match. Bad news is that if we die this turn, we lose this match. So, there's that. Very, very poetic. Well, it's not reliably great, it's just reliably okay more than Flicker Wisp is reliably okay. So in the red-white deck, I only have Flicker Wisp as flyers, and I only have 1 Mirran Crusader, so I worry about the board getting stalled. Like, that's a real concern, and if you don't have a Mom, then you can't actually push damage, even if you get a Jitte or something. So I'm really worried there. Can't think of a way you win this game if you die this turn, so you got us there. I know, I'm a man of wise words sometimes. Oh man. Alright, opponent, you think that's gonna be good, but there's a surprise coming for you. And it's named Mirran Crusader. Mirran Crusader being a giant jerk face. Path comes in to make the board less stalled. Maybe. So my opponent will bounce the Rex Sage in response to that. Was that pause to wait for their concession? No, so my opponent is going to cast the Rex Sage. They're going to blow up the Jitte. I'm going to remove a Jitte counter, kill the Rex Sage, and then I'll get to attack in for 4, 5, 6 damage, and wasteland their Bayou. So they're going to be under the gun. Aquarian Ranger is actually a pretty solid play there because it means I can't realistically wasteland them. I want to see if they'll trade their Aquarian Ranger for my mom. I don't think they will. Indeed, they do not. If they use their Aquarian Ranger on their turn, I will probably wasteland them. More Aquarian Ranger goodness. You bet. I'll take one. So my opponent, if they have nothing else to do at the very least, will Aquarian Ranger bounce a forest, replay a forest to untap their Aquarian Ranger and leave them with one more person that can block. Or not. Alright. So we can also just kill our opponent now. Whew! Right, despite having it all and getting a bunch of Jitte counters, we still barely get there. Who knows what the opponent still had in hand. Alright, so game 2, win with Jitte and Crusader. We're on the draw for that and we win. We'll be on the draw for this one. Some people in chat were talking about whether these Path to Exiles are better than other things. Not entirely sure. Maybe his hand was a bunch of morphs. Maybe. Like, I could see trimming one Flicker Wisp for another path. But I think I still like Magus better than Path. Shutting off Cradle's important. Maybe on the draw I am supposed to, like, just try a bunch of paths. Oh, you only bring in 2 paths? I could see that. Like, the third kind of seems excessive. Yeah, I definitely don't want 2 paths in my opening hand. Like, honestly, I don't really even want path in my opening hand. Path is a card I'd rather draw later on. Like, I guess there is an argument for, like, if I have 2 prelates to lock them out of natural order, like, maybe I board more paths to try and, like, just keep them off of the Elvish Visionary draw engine with Wirewood Symbiote. Snap Keep, this hand is amazing. I know you're saying, Phil, this has 4 lands. But it has a Containment Priest. That card matters a lot. And we're pretty certain to just lead Mom into Containment Priest. And then use Path as a follow-up after that. Yeah, like, I don't really want to Path a Dryad Arbor. That is not profitable. And I don't think I want to get so cute as to, like, upkeep Path your Dryad Arbor to deny mana for 1 turn. We need to talk about this Yu-Gi-Oh card in your deck, Phil. Ah, no. Like, I hate it. I hate this Containment Priest so much. When I bought my deck from Card Hoarder, I used a cart optimization feature, which saved me a bunch of money, and I very much like the feature. But with the cart optimization feature, it didn't care about what are... Oh, they're glimpsing. Here we go. I guess I'll have a few minutes to talk now. With the cart optimization thing, I ended up with, like, Selfie Thalias, and then the Expedition, or Invocation, whatever they call it, Containment Priests, and I'm not a fan of either one of those. So someone says, is Batterskull even good? It's not like you'd fetch it over Jitty or Sword of Fire and Ice. Batterskull is not good. It's a card that I've boarded out a lot. More recent... Alright. Not dead. So just to finish up the Batterskull thought, when the opponent just has a bunch of elves, having Batterskull in the deck keeps them from just going wider than you. That is, it prevents them from just killing you with a bunch of just random 1/1s and 2/2s because they have more dudes than you. So, like, that all is fine. My opponent representing approximately 7 million mana. Like, they're gonna get to Cradle. They're gonna get to use Wirewoods to untap that Dryad Arbor. So they've got a whole bunch of mana, plus Deathrite Shaman, and, like, they can untap that for mana too. My opponent has a Wealth of Riches. Currently hoping that they just play a Natural Order or something and I get to get them. Natural Order. Just do it. Just Natural Order. Come on. Natural Order. Alright, well, that's good enough. I'll get that. Alright, there's that silly Morph guy. Not that I can do a ton about that. Alright. Lots of lines available now. Sort of punished by not playing Plateau on the previous turn. I wanted to, like, hide the fact that I had the red. I can slam Magus to turn off Gaia's Cradle. I can path a Wirewood, waste a Cradle, play Magus on the following turn. I can ignore playing Magus for a turn and let them have one turn of Cradle mana and get rid of both Wirewoods. I kind of like getting rid of both Wirewoods because then, like, my Magus can shut off the guy's Cradle mana and my opponent will be a little resource light. Like, they're going to get one turn of morphing this idiot for a decent amount of damage. But if they have other gas in their hand and I just let them play it out with the Cradle, that could be problematic. But it has to be gas that isn't affected by Containment Priest. Weird turn. I really don't want them to have an Elvish Visionary or equivalent, or to, like, start bouncing this Morph idiot. How much is that guy to morph? I don't even know. What is it? Force Mage? Primal Force Mage? No, not Tribal Force Mage. 2 to morph. So I think I'm going to play out 2 removal spells this turn. And then go from there. No, I don't want to do it upkeep. Because then they have the opportunity to tap the Gaia's Cradle for more mana. And, like... Or they have the opportunity to, like, unmorph that guy and then bounce it with Wirewood. So I don't think I want to do that. So what am I dead to? I'm dead to my opponent just naturally having a Crater Hoof. I am dead to... Oh, great. It's another one. So my opponent taps for 6 mana. They can unmorph both of these. Assuming they're both Force Mages, that gives my opponent stuff +4/+4. So that's 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. I can only block 3 damage of that. So I am dead if they are both Force Mages. So I'll make a block as if it's not a Force Mage. I will block a Dryad Arbor, I guess. I guess the Deathray Shaman, because that can potentially drain me at some point. Alright. Show me what you got, opponent. Alright, so it only pumps elves. So yeah, okay, that's an error on my end. Alright, so it's a tribal Force Mage. Yeah, so like, if I only make one block there, they pick whichever one I don't block. So I guess I should have blocked Dryad Arbor instead. And then if they name, like, Tree or whatever the heck Dryad Arbor is, then, okay. So, that Batter Skull means that I don't actually want to Wasteland them. I just want to play my Magus of the Moon and then play Batter Skull. And then I'll see if I don't die. That's another Tribal Force Mage I probably just do, though. So if they flip another Tribal Force Mage on Elf, it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 damage, and 2 more with Dryad Arbors. Alright. So my opponent doesn't have a ton of gas. They have 2 cards left. It's probably a safe assumption that at least one of those cards is invalidated by Containment Priest. We're going to see just an attack with everything. An attack with just Morph Neuter. I'm just going to take that. Who knows what it could be. Like, I think it's probably just a Tribal Force Mage. Maybe Birchlow Rangers. How do you feel about the food chain matchup? Let me talk about that after this game. I'll talk about that while I'm queuing for my next match. For the next league, can you shut off your elf magnet, please? Ugh, I know. It's been rough. I've gotten paired against elves a lot in the last couple of days. So it's kind of nice that Dryad Arbor isn't a forest anymore, so like it can't be bounced with Quirion Ranger. Okay. You have a black. What would you like to do with your black? Oh, you would like to drain me. That's how we're gonna try to win this game, huh? Against this Batterskull that's gaining me life? Do you think that you can still return it with Quirion Ranger? Is that what's going on? Is there a chance the opponent dies to the clock here? Yeah, very, very much so. Like, they have less than 2 minutes remaining. Alright, they have conceded the match. So I made some micro misplays that game. Like, playing the port over Plateau on turn 2 didn't seem wrong at the time because it was very likely that I wanted to port the Cradle if some things went wrong at some point in the game. But then I drew like the one thing that could punish me for that, which was a second 1 white mana card. Although me not wastelanding ended up being very, very important because we needed that other land to curve out on the turns that followed. So I'm not 100% sure that I played optimally on a couple of turns, but it ended up working out very, very well for us. Whew. Okay. So we somehow beat elves. It happened. It happens every once in a while. It shouldn't. So game 3 win. I want to say via Containment Priest. But like realistically, my opponent clocked out there. That's what was really happening. Okay, so somebody asked about Food Chain. What do I think about the Food Chain matchup? It's awful. Like, it's really hard to beat even just Food Chain and Mist Hollow Griffin when your opponent doesn't have another combo piece to go with it. Because, like, Swords to Plowshares does nothing against Mist Hollow Griffin. Like, it just gains them 3 life and then they recast it. And then even Walking Ballista, just casting that for 4 or 6 mana, even without the combo, is just devastatingly good. Because if we're holding, you know, the game with something like Mom or Mirror Crusader, then Walking Ballista just, like, takes care of that. It takes care of Revokers that are on Food Chains. Like, we have tools to fight the matchup, but, like, I've played Food Chain. I've played Food Chain in a handful of tournaments at competitive REL. Like, I'm somewhat experienced with the deck. I would say Food Chain is pretty heavily favored in that matchup. Yeah, we somehow beat the Little Green Men. It required a little bit of luck. This hand's going back. This hand's bad. But let's see if I have any data on what my opponent's doing. Versus Button. Oh, guys! It's elves again. Okay, so if it's elves, do I keep this Double Swords to Plowshare's Mom Revoker hand? That is also a mulligan to 5. Like, does it get much better than, like, these cards? Like, sure, 2 of these are dead, but, like, these 5 cards are really good in the matchup. Is this suicidal? What if they're not on elves? Okay, never mind. They were seen on elves in, like, 2016. I'm gonna mulligan this one, in that case. Yeah, like, if you want me to talk more about the food chain matchup, I'd be happy to do it. Alright, I'm gonna operate under the assumption that my opponent is not on elves and that this Thalia will be useful and put this on top. Like, if I'm... I hope I don't have Elf Magnet today. I don't want to play elves again. Like, we probably only won that last matchup because my opponent had, like, really weird suboptimal cards in their deck. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, looks like elves. Looks like elves. Alright. Narrator, the opponent was indeed on elves. Yeah, that's basically how I feel right now. I don't really want to Swords to Plowshares the Nettle Sentinel. I kind of want to wait for a better card since my hand is, you know, garbage. I'm going to go ahead and pass. Punishment for winning against green men. Have to be shown my place by losing to green men. Alright, Heritage Druid. And then if my opponent casts another elf, I'll go ahead and remove this Heritage Druid in response. Poor Jarvis. I have a really good Jarvis story. Maybe tell that when I get a chance. It's super unfortunate that my opponent had Quirion Ranger, so I can't just, like, wasteland them. Life can't be easy. When my opponent starts going off, I'll tell you my Jarvis story. I'll tell you about the first time I played against him. It was in one of the first Legacy events. It was like, no, it was the literal first Legacy event I ever played. He tilted pretty hard. It was great. Alright, opponent having all sorts of fun over there. With the cards that don't die to Wasteland or aren't taxed by Thalia. Grumble, 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 grumble. Alright. Stoneforge is a start. I feel like this will be a more civilized version of the Green Men, without the spices. Yeah, I don't think we're going to see Tribal Force Mage this round. Well, let's not go calling Mono Green Rabbit civilized. Alright, opponent is glimpsing. Alright. My opponent knows I have Jitte. I'm not going to bounce Astalia anytime soon. I'm just going to go ahead and F6 and let them do their thing, and I'll tell a story while they go off. Alright, so, this was, like, right when I moved to Maryland, and it was the first weekend that I had essentially what was a mono-white, like, white weenie deck built together. It wasn't quite Death and Taxes, because I don't think I had ports, and I didn't have, Caracas at that time, and I was missing a couple other staples. So instead I filled my deck with a bunch of, like, bad cards. And so ThrabenU was playing, like, Miracles before it was Miracles, like, before it was actually a thing. He was testing it. You know, it was kind of in the time when, like, Blue-Weight Stoneblade was still around, and, like, the Miracles deck of the time, I think, was called Sleepy Helm or something like that. And I played against him, and... Nope. Am I not dead? No, I'm not dead. Alright, finish that story later. Alright, so there's 1 on 3, I'm not intending on ticking up. There's 1 on 2, I will tick up. Alright. So let's see if my opponent knows how their deck works. Constantly people don't. So my opponent should just, like, block with an elf and then return so I don't get any counters. Like, this should be a no-brainer, but we'll make my opponent do it. Anyway, so I'm playing against Jarvis, and he's on what is basically Miracles. The only win conditions in the deck at the time were Jace the Mind Sculptor and Entreat the Angels. And I am playing with something absurd, like 4 copies of Armageddon in my deck. So, like, he's way ahead on board, and I Armageddon him. And we both go back to nothing. And I sort of claw myself back into the game, he plays a few more lands, and I Armageddon him again. And he just looks at me and, like, stares me down, like, what on earth are you doing running so many copies of Armageddon in your deck? And then he stops, and he pauses. And he just, like, looks at me, looks at his graveyard again, fans out his graveyard, realizes that he does not have enough lands in his deck to cast either Entreat the Angels or a Jace the Mind Sculptor, and concedes. So that was just super funny. Like, I really enjoyed it, because, like, at the time I was, like, super noob who doesn't know what he's doing, and, you know, at that point I'm pretty sure he was already, like, a magic grinder. So, like, he just looks at me, and, like, my deck has, like, 5 different swords in it. Like, I think I had, like, literally all of the swords in my main deck, and I'm playing, like, terrible cards, like, what's the level up guy? Student of Warfare. Like, I've got Student of Warfare in my deck and a bunch of Armageddons, and, like, I just, like, somehow managed to cobble together a win against, like, his awesome tier 1 deck that's, like, still experimental. It was a good time. Why aren't I dead? Just kill me, opponent. Just put me out of my misery. So what do I want to draw? I'd like to draw a Flicker Wisp. In your Crusader list, Cataclysm over Gideon or keep it as is. Like, honestly, I can see it going either way. Both of the cards are very, very good right now. I don't remember if I actually wrote about this anywhere. But my... Okay. Okay. This is fine. So we Flicker Wisp the Wirewood, and then I for sure get Jitte counters. Sometimes good things happen. Gideon tends to be better when you are approximately at parity, and Cataclysm tends to be better when you're behind. That's the long and short of it. Don't even talk about doing it yet. Don't even talk. So I'm going to go ahead and kill the Quirion Ranger. Which will allow me to wasteland them. Pay 2 mana. Equip this to the Flicker Wisp so that in future turns it can just fly over. Go to the end step. Wirewood comes back, and then we kill it with fire. Nick Fit's a really fun deck to play against. I don't know how many of you were around for it, but a while back, what are you doing? Don't just tap a bunch of mana. Green Sun for X equals 1. That's going to be either a Wirewood or a Heritage Druid, probably. Yep, alright, Heritage Druid. 3 mana. Elvish Visionary, sure. Four mana. A lot of mana. More Elvish Visionary, sure. Okay. Five mana. You know, just natural order me after all of this. Ask your opponent if they can beat Carnage Tyrant. Alright, my opponent natural orders. I'm sad. That should be lethal. 2, 4, 5, 6 creatures, 4 attackers, 24 damage plus another 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Approximately 1 billion damage. Yep. Alright, fine. We dead. Nick Fit is hilarious when you're on Miracles. Every Nick Fit player seems to think it's a good matchup and then ramps you into turn 2 Jace. Alright. So we're playing against Elves. I think we were on the play and we lost. We lost to Button. Game 1, natural order. After we have Jitte for a turn. So, like, we drew pretty well, we got a little lucky, and it still wasn't enough. Welcome to the Elves matchup. Alright, so last time I think we boarded in, I think we went with 2 paths, Priest, Canonist, Canonist, Recruiter, Crusader, Prelate, Prelate. Then we went Thalia out, Direfleet, Daredevil out, Palace Jailer out, PNK out, and a Flicker Wisp out. I think that's what we did last time, and I was pretty happy with that. Again, not entirely sure how I feel about Path to Exile. It's awkward. But we'll see how we do. I would like to play. This hand is great. So there are certain things that you want to see in an opener to keep them against elves. Canonist and Containment Priest are the absolute best things to have in your opener. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure that I like Path to Exile more than Flicker Wisp. Like, I'm going to try it out since some people in chat seem to like it. Like, Ayati was saying that he liked Path. I think I like Flicker Wisp more than Path. But, like, I'll try it for a couple of matches. Like, it's a matchup where, like, any decision we make has minimal impact since all their cards are just so good. And everything we do doesn't matter. I'm going to hold the Wasteland in my hand until they play a Cradle. I'd like to snipe a Cradle. I can use a path to just get rid of this Deathrite Shaman right now. I might wait, though. Like, my opponent can only play 1 spell, and if they go, like, land natural order, like, it's not enough to kill me with a Crater Hoof yet. And most people aren't on Progenitus these days. I will attack in. My opponent won't double block because I got this bomb. Yeah, like, sometimes you get Progenitus, and, like, it's fine, that happens. So my opponent doesn't have any more land, which kind of makes me want to fire off the Path, and just, like, Path the Deathrite. That's that. I might need my mana if I do something like naturally draw Jitte. I might need 4. And I'm not going to be able to deploy multiple spells in a turn anyway. So I'll go ahead and get this guy off the table. My opponent should only have 2 forests in their deck. And I'm going to go ahead and tick up to 3 because all my recruiters are at 3. Alright, buddy. You get one turn with your cradle there before I wasteland it. Alright, Wirewood Symbiote is a great play to make, but less great in the face of this Canonist. At this point, we can say always no to that. Alright, Crusader friend. Welcome to the party. And we're going to pro-green to get our damage on here. I don't want my opponent blocking and then bouncing. Yeah, naturally drawing our 1-of Crusader every game against elves is really helpful for our win percentage against elves. So I have my opponent dead in 2 turn with Canonist and Mirran Crusader attacks. Alright, this Birchlaw Ranger means that my opponent is a little less tight on mana. Go on, attack. Attack into this mom. You won't. You won't. Jete. 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 It's not Jete. I am going to play this vial. There is merit in not playing the vial to just like pretend to have something. But since like I have my opponent dead on board next turn, like they are 100% playing a natural order if they have it. So like I have nothing to bluff. And if something goes wrong and like they play like a face down morph card so that I can't present lethal this turn, I would rather have the vial in play than sitting in my hand. Yeah, we are looking to fade natural order, like cradle natural order. That is the fear. If my opponent has like cradle Rex Sage, Glimpse go off, or no, like they can't do that because of like Mom plus Canonist backup. God, Yeah, but it seems unlikely that they have natural order and another cradle. Hashtag elves is correct. Yeah. That's... Yep. Just elf things. That was frustrating. We were so close. Game 2, we were on the play, and we lost. So game 2 had lethal on board. OP has exactly Cradle and Natural Order to go off as only out. Alright. It's playing against elves twice in a row. It's kind of sad. Not overly happy about that. Let's see if we can get paired against not elves, so Phil doesn't have an aneurysm tonight, and so that we can break even on this league. So I'm 2-1 since the start of the stream, but I played a match off stream against Death and Taxes where I lost the Equipment War 2 games in a row. Yeah, Mr. Meow, the Greater Hoof itself was a 9-9, so we were very, very dead even if we blocked with the mom. Alright, we played against Alvas in this league already. Which guy was he? Oh no, Alvas was the guy playing the weird D&T deck. He was playing the weird D&T deck with no sideboard that was relevant. I will keep an Ether Vial hand that also has a Swords to Plowshares for a turn 1 mum. Yep, my opponent's not on the D&T deck anymore. Alright, what do you think Underground Sea into Inquisition of Kozilek means? Who plays Inquisition of Kozilek these days? So my opponent took 1 vial, which kind of makes me think they can answer the second vial. So maybe I go and just waste them. But the upside of the vial resolving is super high. And if they have to use 2 cards to force this, so be it. Alright. I accept. So my guess is that my opponent is on some sort of, like, Delver deck. Like, maybe a bug Delver deck that, like, is low to the ground, has, like, oh, buddy. So I play this mom, it resolves, and I'll waste you. Another land. It's a great draw. So I don't remember if I finished that thought or not, or if I got distracted. But yeah, I think my opponent is on a low-to-the-ground Bug Delver deck that is going to be very heavy on the 1-drop side, rather than playing more flexible 2-drop cards like Hymn to Turok. Rap with me about that mom wasteland sequencing. So if my opponent has a daze and wants to daze my mom so that I tap the wasteland to not wasteland their hand, then, like, I gain a card, they go back a land drop, and then I get to wasteland them again. So, like, I'm 100% fine with them, like, dazing it. Like, my opponent dazing that is good for me. Does that ever happen? You'd be surprised how bad players are. It's unfortunate that I have to show them this plateau. I also think it's somewhat likely that my opponent might play like some random delve threats. Alright. Opponent has some guys. Alright, so this play looks a little weird, but I've seen Liliana the Last Hope in like one too many Bug Delver deck main decks to like be afraid of it. Alright, opponent does not flip. There's a Deathrite Shaman. My opponent does not even do an attack, which I think they probably should. Still no flip on that Delver, which is great for me. I could wait a turn to play this Direfleet Daredevil around a daze, but I kind of think that my opponent has a land. So I think I'm just going to go for it now and like cast the Direfleet Daredevil and Fatal Push their Goyf. I just read Fatal Push. It's 3 or more that is, yeah. This is the point where my opponent reads Direfleet Daredevil and goes, what? Why? I've never cast this card. Do I hit cast or do I hit cast only target creature with CMC 2 or less? So I guess it's the smaller one. And since I have so much power on the ground, I actually just want to like kill the Delver, I think, rather than the Tarmogoyf. Yeah, I think I care about the Delver flipping. I don't think I care about the Tarmogoyf right now. Doesn't matter which one. Yeah. And I will 100% block here. That's fine. Like, I think my opponent should have been making that attack for a couple of turns anyway. So, another turn down the line, I will get to Flicker Wisp, Direfleet Daredevil, and Fatal Push the Tarmogoyf, which is pretty awesome. Or, sorry, I meant Abrupt Decay. My opponent did not shuffle with Ponder, so they found a card they liked. Leovold. Okay. It's kind of an awkward draw. I can't cast the Thalia this turn and decay. And I want to decay the Tarmogoyf to protect my life total. The Leovold can sit there and I can wall it with Thalia and Direfleet a turn down the line, or I can just trade it with my Flicker Wisp. If I kill Leo, I can just race him. How am I supposed to race the Tarmogoyf that has 5 power? Like, if my opponent holds that back, then I'm just attacking with Flicker Wisp, and if my opponent attacks with it and plays a follow-up threat, they'll hit for 5 first. Like, if say they play another Tarmogoyf, then I don't actually successfully race them. Yeah, see, like, if I had gotten rid of the Leovold, and this was the follow-up play, that's super, super scary for me. Okay, Stoneforge Mystic is pretty great. Quite happy with that. I have the Batterskull in hand, and I can fetch a second piece of equipment. And I'll go ahead and get my sword here to get me through the Leovold if need be. Do I want to attack with the Flicker Wisp? If my opponent attacks him with both creatures, I'll take the hit from the Tarmogoyf and trade my Flicker Wisp for Leovold. So I don't think I want to attack with the Flicker Wisp. How's the Daredevil running? Daredevil's fine. Like, we played against elves twice, so it's gotten boarded out, so, like, we haven't really done anything cool with it. This game we got to Fatal Push and Abrupt Decay, so, like, that was all fine. But it's not like it's the most insane thing in the world. so I'll take that hit. Alright. Opponent really needs... Yep. Yeah, I mean, it did kill 2 things this game, and like that's all fine and great, you know. Would it have been better than Vryn Wingmare, which under different circumstances might have locked my opponent off of mana, or like traded with the Delver? Maybe not this game. All right, so I'm probably casting Sword over Thalia this turn. Swinging in with the Flicker Wisp. It did the sweet thing. That's all that matters. DNC is now the sweetest deck in Legacy. All right, sure, we can put it that way. I'll play the Sword. Alright, opponent has days. Unfortunate. Again, kind of want to hold the Wisp back to trade it with the Leovold, or like at least effectively gain 3 life. I am not the aggressor at this point, I'm on the defensive. I'll probably just like chump block with the Revoker this turn. I think. My life total's getting low enough where I am scared. I can take 1 more hit. My opponent also has 1 card, and I can just, like, gang block the Tarmogoyf if I wanted and, like, bounce the Leovold. It isn't actually the worst thing in the world. Like, it's terrible. Or I can just, like, chump with it this turn and then, like, plan on Thalia bouncing until I draw an out. I don't really want to trade 3 bodies for 1. I'd rather, like, draw a piece of equipment or have these around as, like, Flicker Wisp things. I'm going to throw this Revoker in front of the bus and just treat it as a guy who gains me 5 life. Okay, that's a Recruiter. What does Recruiter do? So Recruiter can get a Flicker Wisp. And I can use Flicker Wisp as fogs. I can bounce Leovold, attack my opponent for 5, put them to 8. It's not the best. I can just play Thalia, and then Recruiter. I'm gonna look at my main deck for a minute. I can Recruiter for Palace Jailer to get me out of this. Magus of the Moon is a little late to the party. I wish I had the Recruiter, or excuse me, I wish I had the Crusader in the main deck. So I can Recruiter. I can't cast Daredevil, so I can't Daredevil and push. I think I'm going to aggro my opponent out. And I'm gonna have a lot of potential lines with this recruiter. I think I'm just gonna get P and K and create infinite bodies. And I don't think they can beat P and K. Again, we'll kind of play careful here and just protect our life total. There's that Leovold again. That's fine. Gonna turn off auto yields again. Make sure I don't mess that up. You have to believe in the power of P and K. It's an army of can, not an army of can't. Sure. And on the off chance that my opponent plays a stifle, I'm just gonna put this in now. Yeah, if they didn't block, it would be lethal because I just put in P and K and throw a Thopter at their face. No, my opponent can't deluge me because I'm going to throw a Thopter at their face. They would be at 1 life. That doesn't work. Alright, so we're playing against Bug Delver. After all of that, we're on the play. No, we're on the draw. And we win. Versus Alvis, Alvis versus Alvis. So game 1, win with... it's really a win with tempo, but I'll call that a Dire Fleet win. Because it kills 2 creatures. I'll give it to Little Buddy there. I'll give it to Pirate Friend. Alright, so what do I want for this? I want my Paths. I want my Rest in Peace. And I most certainly want my Mirran Crusaders. Just tab back here. So what don't I want? I don't usually like Recruiters against Delver. I think they're slow. I usually board out Revokers until I have a very, very good reason to want them in the deck. P and K was fine that game, but I think more generally it's going to be too slow and the red will be tricky. And then I need 1 more board out. All the rest of these cards are great. So at this point, I usually trim a card. I think I will trim either a Thalia or a Flickerwisp. Given the way that game went and the interaction between Flickerwisp and Direfleet Daredevil, like I kind of like trimming one Thalia. Like I definitely want it to be one of my X1 creatures that I trim, like just in case they have something like Dread of Night. So I think that's what I want to do. Sanctum on 1 for maximum value? You mean shutting off our 7 removal spells? That value? Now, this is something I've talked about before, but in my more recent matches, I am prioritizing removing Deathrite Shaman over playing Aether Vial. Like, it's so scary when your opponent just, like, plays a 3-drop like Lily the Last Hope that you can't answer before you do anything else. 9 removal spells if you count Direfleet Daredevil being bros. I'm going to cut them off cantrips rather than cutting them off playing something like a Tarmogoyf since I've got this Path to Exile. Oh, neat. Opponent doesn't have any more land. So we probably get this one really easy. I know we have the Direfleet, but I'm just going to get a Plains, play around my opponent drawing a Wasteland and messing me up. And let's just jam a Thalia. Ruin my opponent's life. This game is so silly. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot sillier when I Magus you next turn, friend. Kind of want to just like Direfleet and Ponder rather than Stoneforge. But like, I'll probably just Stoneforge. Like Stoneforge, get Batterskull, dump in Batterskull, and like Batterskull and Magus my opponent out of this game. So our opponent gets to play Magic the Gathering for one more turn, and then they stop playing Magic the Gathering again. And I am getting Batterskull right here, so that if my opponent has something like a Fatal Push, they'll Fatal Push the Stoneforge, and then like the Magus comes down off the vial and just wrecks them. Yeah, so there's the Fatal Push on the Stoneforge, just as I intended. And I expect that will get the concession from my opponent. Yep, there's the concession. Good games. Magus is great. So I was on the draw for that one, and I win. So game 2, Magus after Thalia, and opponent Misses, land, drop. Alright, so that was that. So a lot of people have been asking about Direfleet Daredevil. Game 1 of that match, where it got to Abrupt Decay and Fatal Push, that shows you sort of like the higher end of what it can do. Like, it was very, very good there. But, like, I've done 3 or 4 leagues with Direfleet Daredevil, and every single one has been a 3-2 finish. Like, that's nothing to be sad about. Like, this league would have gone better if we didn't get paired against Elves twice, and we managed to win one of those somehow. So that's fine. Like, I'm gonna continue testing the card because it. What did Ayati say a while back? It does sweet things. D&T is the sweetest deck in Legacy, or something to that extent. Like it does a lot of really interesting things. It's a very hard card to play around because like there's just so many options. I don't know that it is better than other options, but it certainly isn't much worse than other options if it's not the best. Again, not 100% sure on this last sideboard slot here, like what this should be. At the beginning of the stream, we talked about it, like Cataclysm, Gideon, Council's Judgment, Fiendslayer, Paladin, Sword of War and Peace were all things that came up in this slot. It started off as Orzhov Pontiff, and I didn't like that. It was too hard to cast. Then I tried a Surgical Extraction, which didn't seem like I needed. So some sort of card like that will be good in like Miracles and Check Piles matchups with application elsewhere is probably right. It also provides reach to finish off games with Bolt. Yeah, I don't know if you were around for this stream, but like in one of my previous streams, here's me killing my opponent with Bolt. Like they have a Jace on board, they have a Snapcaster Mage, you know, even if they have another removal spell to get rid of my creatures so I can't attack in for lethal, like the Bolt still had them covered. And like that turn was cast Recruiter, get Daredevil, cast Bolt. Chris Cunningham also posted a couple of screenshots in the D&T Facebook group about like a couple of the wins he got with Direfleet Daredevil, and like he posted another like Bolt you for lethal one. How do you feel about plateau taxes versus mono white right now? I've been having more success with the red-white lists recently. There is probably a marginal difference between them. Like, as long as you have your deck built right for the metagame, playing either one of them is fine. Like, I really like my Crusader build. It is a little mana hungry, and like sometimes you'll lose games to not having double white. Which is one of the reasons why I've started liking to play red-white, is because there's very few double-colored cards in the deck. But both are fine. Like, both are 100% viable. Alright, so I think I'm going to go ahead and call it here. If you enjoy my content and you're not already following me, please follow me. Plateau taxes? Yeah, that's kind of a weird way to put it. I'm calling it red-white taxes. Hey, Bahra, do you have any interest in streaming right now? Because if so, I will just, like, dump all of my people currently watching my stream into your stream if you want to start streaming. But otherwise, I'm going to find a different Legacy stream to throw all of my followers in. Thank you, everyone, for joining me this evening. Again, my regularly scheduled stream days. Oh, you just woke up. Ugh. That's right, time zone differences. Alright, so my regularly scheduled streams are going to be at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Monday and Wednesdays. So I will see you all again on Wednesday. Just host someone else. Alright, I will do that. Thank you all for joining me. I'll hang around in the chat for a couple more minutes if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'm going to